I'd like to talk with you about epistemology.
Oh no, not the corona thing again. I think I've had enough of virology, bacteriology, and epidemiology.
I meant epistemology, not epidemiology.
Oh, I'm sorry. Epistemology is actually quite simple. It is the branch of philosophy that deals with the problem of knowledge. If you take it very precisely, you can also say epistemology is Wissenschaftslehre, as it has been called since the days of Fichte.
Honestly, I never really understood if that had anything to do with you.
Well, it has. Not through philosophy, though, rather through history. Do you remember what I once said about Bachelard and Canguilhem? They both belong to a tradition called historical epistemology.
And what does that mean?
The term has been around in France since the 1930s. Actually, it's just another name for history of science, but for a history of science that is philosophically motivated and oriented, just as in Bachelard and Canguilhem. Historical epistemology does not simply want to recount what discoveries and inventions have been made. It also wants to understand what knowledge actually is.
And that interested you?
Yes, very much so. Especially the relationship between science and knowledge. In this context, by the way, I have often spoken of the episteme.
What does that mean now?
I apologize, but for us in France, and more precisely in Paris, such puns are really important. It's a kind of branding.
Let me guess. There probably isn't even a clear definition of it, just as in Thomas Kuhn's paradigm.
That's true, unfortunately. But at least I tried to give one, and it goes like this. The episteme is the totality of relations that can be discovered for a given period between the sciences when one analyzes them at the level of discursive regularities.
I knew you would come up with discourse. Then why not epi-course, which would bring us back to epidemiology?
Look, it's not that difficult. I regard science as a kind of language, and like any language, it depends on rules, not only on the general rules of grammar, but also on regularities of language use, that is, on habits and conventions, or in other words, on a certain know-how. What particularly interested me is the question of how and when this know-how changes, and how, as a consequence, science then also changes.
Kind of like the paradigm shift in Kuhn.
Yeah, but not on the level of theory and or perceptions, but precisely on the level of discourse, of language.
But that has something to do with epidemiology.
Why?
Well, because the changes in discourse don't take place selectively and once and for all, but also have to spread first, like a virus.
Language is a virus. Someone once said. I would add, so is knowledge.